You ever noticed how your body backs down before your mind does? The problem isn't confrontation. It's what confrontation used to cost you. So today we're answering the question, why do you avoid confrontation even when you're right? This one can absolutely come with a cost that we're going to get into later. But first and foremost, we're going to get into the why this may be the case. Why are you a person who avoids confrontation even when you're right? Also, very common thing, very, very common thing. And I think people would chalk it up to just being like, they would attribute it to people who are not courageous. They may say that it's cowardice to do it, but it's deeper than that. The avoidance of confrontation goes beyond just the feeling of being cowardly. I reject the answer that simple. So we're going to get into deeper reasons why this may be the case. Okay. So the first one, why this may happen. Being right escalated situations instead is bad. Trying to make it legible so you guys can actually receive it. Instead of resolving them. Being right escalated situations instead of resolving them. A lot of things that people are dealing with, of why they even come to this channel to hear me talk about these questions, it's because a part of their origin story. Yes, you're a superhero. So let's get into your origin story. A part of your origin story has taught you that it's better to avoid confrontation, because when you spoke about things in your childhood to your caregiver, they made you feel bad about speaking about it, right? Things may have escalated. They became upset. They became disconnected. They began to over question you and invalidate you as to what you were confronting them about. So a lot of these heavier feelings, a lot of this heavy lifting, we first had to do as kids. And that's why it imprinted on us so badly, because we were not meant to carry such things as children. You were not meant to carry the burdens that you have as a child, which is why it has imprinted on you so much that it's so heavily impacted how you interact with other people in your adulthood. So that's one of the reasons why. Being right escalated situations instead of resolving them. Instead of being in an environment where if I had an issue and I wanted to confront you about it, confrontation also sounds like it's bad. I think a lot of people have come to associate confrontation with bad for this exact reason. We assume that confrontation has to be like negative, or has to be violent, or like I'm checking you or something. We have really lost the positive nature of confrontation, because confrontation is meant to resolve. Confrontation is meant to bring about productive conversation to figure out how we can make things better, not who can win this battle. That's not inherently the nature of confrontation. Confrontation is a good thing when done properly. You should want to confront things that bother you, because that's the only way to better them. But again, if you grew up in an environment where it did not better them and it escalated the situation, then you have learned that confrontation is dangerous. So, what's another reason why? And about it being dangerous. This really touches on it. Confrontation meant loss of safety. And this doesn't even, meant loss of safety, not clarity. Again, I said that confrontation should bring about clarity. That's the real purpose of confrontation, for us to clarify the misunderstanding between us so that we can move forward better than we were before we had the confrontation. Confrontation is supposed to be productive. However, if your introduction to confronting things or to confrontation was a loss of safety, then you're going to avoid it. You're going to avoid doing it. And loss of safety doesn't necessarily mean physical safety, although it also does mean physical safety. There are situations where in your childhood, you attempted to confront something, whether in your household or outside of your household, in your neighborhood, around your peers, that you attempted to confront something and it physically harmed you, right? There was no clarity. There was no clear conversation about what was bothering you to find a resolve. Your physical safety was impacted. Sometimes your emotional safety is impacted, right? Sometimes you're just invalidated. Sometimes you're dismissed. Sometimes it's a loss of connection. The person has disconnected from you when you attempted to confront them about something that was bothering you. And because you did not want to deal with the consequences of these things, mind you, as a kid, that makes perfect sense, right? As a kid, the thing that we are most concerned with is our survival. The thing that we are most concerned with is that we have a community to fit into, right? That's a desire and need in childhood. You want a sense of belonging. And if you feel like confrontation is going to take away that sense of belonging, then you avoid it for what you feel like is your safety. And at the time that you develop that feeling, it may very well been for your safety, for your protection, that you develop this avoidance. So what's another why? You started to believe that harmony was your responsibility. You started to believe that if you became the person who confronted the things that were bothering you, that you would disrupt the harmony in the environment that you were in. And in order to maintain this harmony, instead of having a clarifying conversation about what was bothering you, you learned that I'm just going to shut up to keep the harmony, right? Your confrontation became the problem, not the thing that you're confronting, right? It's like a blame shift. You were taught that the problem isn't the problem. The fact that you want to confront the problem is the problem. And that is such that's gaslighting. That's like classic. That's what it is. The problem isn't the problem. Your desire to confront the problem is the problem. And that is such a psychological tool that shows up so many places, just in interactions, whether it be on large scale interactions or small scale interactions. That is really one that is like straight out of a playbook. I'm gonna mess you up psychologically playbook. So that's one, or that's three. The last one is your nervous system thinks, let's see, disagreement equals, that equal sign was bad. That looked more like a greater sign. Equals, there you go, disconnection. We touched on this earlier. Your nervous system, if when you went to confront something, instead of, again, having a clarifying conversation about it, where I share how I feel, you share how you feel, we figure out the misunderstandings in between, and we can move forward more amicably and more productive than we had been prior to having the confrontation. If that's not how things went, and when you confronted a problem to your caregiver or whatever other person in whatever other environment that you really, really cared about and had a connection to. And when you confronted them, this is what happened. They disconnected from you, whether they physically left you or they just gave you the silent treatment or they just started acting weird. You know how people you can just feel it. There's like a tension now after you confronted them about something. You learn to avoid it because you don't want to have that feeling. It's like it's easier to be silent than it is to say something. However, maybe in the moment, but for how long? How long is it easier to stay silent? Because that goes south fast. It goes south fast. So you learn, your nervous system learn, and the things that you do, the pattern behaviors that you have, it all goes back to the comfort of your nervous system. Your nervous system likes what's familiar, whether it's helpful to you or not, like whether it's the healthy thing or not. As long as it's familiar to you, your nervous system is calmed. So your nervous system starts to believe, and that can be a hard pattern to break. Going against your nervous system can be really, really hard to break because your nervous system becomes triggered when you think that you're in danger. And what your nervous system and your subconscious mind deems as dangerous could be what's healthy. What it deems as dangerous may just be outside of your current comfort zone, where what is healthy could reside, right? If your nervous system is not used to healthy things, then discomfort is comforting, and what's healthy is uncomfortable, and what's not healthy is comfortable. So you have to do some rewiring, right? You got to be able to move past the nervous system to go outside your comfort zone to get what is healthy. Yes, disagreement equals disconnection. There you go. So those are pretty much the whys as to why you avoid confrontation, even when you're right. Even when you know that you have a valid opinion, you have a valid reason to be in emotional distress, but you avoid it anyway. Next, we're going to talk about the pillar that this falls under. Everything on this channel we look at through the whole method, which comes with 5 pillars. The whole method is a framework to better understand yourself, better understand your patterns, your actions, so that you can make healthy decisions toward your future desires, toward building relationships, toward your fulfillment. You know, all of these things. Again, the whole method comes with 5 pillars: witness, heal, own, love, execute. Those are the 5 pillars. Each pillar you have to go through in order to get the full benefit of the whole method, and you have to do it in order, one pillar at a time, because that's how it makes sense. Another great thing about the whole method is that you can use it for your entire life, and it'll work just the same. How do I know that? Because it's principle based, and principles don't change. They're not something that I made up. I wrapped it in a pretty bow and named it the whole method, but it is wisdom and knowledge that shows up all across, not all across the world, all across time, all across the span of human time. That's what I love about principles. And the whole method is built on principles that will stand far after you and I are here. So, first pillar, witness. One day I'm gonna do a video on I'm gonna do a video on the principles of the whole method and where they show up, because I mean they show up in the Bible, they show up in self-help books. Like, you gotta love a principle, because when you understand them, you can really work with them for your benefit. So it comes under witness, because in witness we are going from chaos to awareness. And the reason why so much of what we talk about falls under the witness pillar is because the goal of witness is awareness, and the goal of this channel is awareness. The goal of this channel is for a light bulb to click when we have these conversations, for you to be like, oh, shoot, that's me. And then the next thing we go over is the cost of not changing, because there's a cost to all behavior. So again, the witness pillar, it could go in the heal pillar also, because in heal we go from, I don't really have room to write this, but I'll tell you, in heal we go from burden to understanding. And a lot of burdens that we carry in our adult life come from our origin story. Again, superheroes. They come from our origin story. So those are the pillars, or those are the pillars that this question touches on. So now we are going to get into the cost. And the cost is my favorite tidbit of information, because I have noticed that when you tell people the cost of their behavior, they are so much more likely to do something about it. When they realize the things that, not the cost today, but the cost that will pop up forever if they do not make a change. Because people assume the consequences of their actions that they're facing today, that they're going to face those same consequences tomorrow. And that's not how it works. When you leave, again, a principle, everything left to itself, it worsens. If you don't do anything to rewire yourself and to rewire these patterns, it's your consequence today is not going to be your consequence tomorrow. Your consequence tomorrow is going to be worse. Your consequence a year from now will be worse. Your consequences 10 years from now will be 1,000 times worse, because it's going to compound because you didn't do anything about it. So I really hope you hear that. Cost. Dang. What is the cost of not doing the work to dismantle, doing the work to dismantle this belief? What's the cost? Your needs and boundaries stay unspoken. So I just said that your consequence today will not be your consequence tomorrow. Your consequence tomorrow will not be the consequence that you experience 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Because you know what happens if your needs and boundaries stay unspoken? Resentment, bitterness. If you continue to live in a way where you are the sole carrier of the burdens of the things that you did not confront, you will be so burnt out and angry by life, because you never confronted the things that impacted your needs and boundaries. They're going to stay unspoken. And while you are blaming other people for never allowing you the environment to say this, mind you, I'm talking to the adult in you right now. We're gonna put up the kid in you, right? We're gonna put up the little child in all of us, because I already spoke to that person. I understand what that person had to do to survive. So I honor your inner child for everything they did to survive. I am now speaking to the adult version of you. If you continue to be in the environment where you cannot speak about the things that are bothering you, you cannot confront them, or you are waiting for someone else to create the perfect environment for you to feel comfortable enough to confront them, you're failing yourself. And I mean that as harshly as I'm saying it. You really, really are. And I'm only saying it like that because you have a choice in the matter. You can absolutely choose to either leave this environment by speaking up about your needs and boundaries, because either somebody is going to accept it or they're not. And if they don't accept it, bounce. As simple as that. Because you assume that them being in your life is better than them not being in your life. But if you can't confront them about your emotional distress, even when you're right, and they have something that they need to do differently, you don't need to be around them. You don't need to be in a relationship with them, because they have their own work that they need to do in order to be in healthy relationship. Okay. Your needs and boundaries stay unspoken. Another thing, again, talking to the adult in you, because you have to take responsibility of these consequences. People learn they don't have to consider you. These are compounded consequences. When you're just, everything is cool, no matter what somebody does, you don't have to confront anything. Everything is fine. You never have a problem with anything this person does. Now, well, no. At some point, to be in a healthy, intimate relationship, you are going to have a problem with something someone does. Now, once you guys confront those problems and you can do it in a healthy manner, you won't have nearly as many problems. You won't have to live in constant confrontation, right? But if you never get to that point and that person just thinks everything is just so hunky-dory, right? They're going to not even consider that you may have an issue because I've never even heard you say it. You never took the time to be courageous enough to share that you don't like something they did, or that you are in some sort of emotional distress behind something that they did. So people learn they don't have to consider you. And you know what else happens? And I know somebody has seen this happen. When you are this person who never confronts anything, people think that they can mistreat you. People think that they can make comments to you that are inappropriate because you are not going to stand up for yourself. In other words, people will play in your face because you don't confront anything. You will become the butt of jokes. You will become the person that everybody just they dismiss, they laugh at, they just treat poorly because you've never acted like you had an issue with any mistreatment in your life or that they've seen. So that's a real consequence. And it's another consequence that compounds because it gets worse. If you become the butt of somebody's joke today, how do you think they're going to treat you years from now? All right, another cause. You start doubting, and this is a serious cause, and it really goes into what I just said. You start doubting your own reality. When you start doubting your own reality, that is not a good place to be, because the only place that you can make a change is from reality. You have to be living firmly 2 feet, 10 toes down in reality in order to change anything. You cannot make a solid transformative change living in la la land. You can't do it because you cannot effectively make a good decision from a lie. You have to be able to understand what your reality is. You have to be able to understand what your needs are. You have to be able to understand how you feel in order to act on life, in order to make good decisions for yourself. And if you're put in a position where you start doubting your own reality, how can you make those decisions? How can you figure out what your own needs are? How can you trust yourself? And not being able to trust yourself is so consequential. It comes with so many consequences because there are some hard decisions to make in life. And even if not every one of those decisions are the right decisions, when you don't trust yourself, you stop trying. You stop trying to make an educated guess about what is the right thing. You don't even know. It's like you're starting a board game in the middle of the game. Like you didn't start. You're not at start. So how are you supposed to win a game where you didn't even start in the right place? Right? How are you supposed to live the best version of yourself when you're not even sure what reality you're living in? It just doesn't work. You can't be in a place where you're doubting yourself because you can't confront things because you've just taken somebody else's word for what's going on, or because you're just so fearful of the loss of connection from them that you're just allowing them to pretty much run amok. Don't doubt your reality. You gotta trust yourself. And the only way to trust yourself is to make the difficult decisions and survive them. to make difficult decisions around relationships and know that you will be okay on the other side of that decision. Every difficult decision I ever made around relationship, my life got 10 times better after I made it. That's just being 110% honest. And I guarantee you, I am not the only one who has had that experience. Every hard decision I have made, not even just around relationships, sometimes it's jobs. Every hard decision I ever made, my life got 10 times better afterward. Even though it sucked in the moment and it did not feel immediately better in the moment, looking back on it, like Myron Golden says all the time, you're not smart enough to know if you're having a bad day. And I would apply the same thing to this. You're not smart enough to know. And why he's saying you're not smart enough to know, because hindsight is 20/20. You're not smart enough to know if you're having a bad day, because those things that take place in a bad day could be shaping your future. So those hard days that you have after you make these decisions, they are shaping your future. Even if it sucks then, you don't have the foresight to see how much better your life will be later. So sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, you just have to do what you know is right for you and have faith that better will come. But you can't do that if you doubt your own reality. And this pretty much is the cherry on top of that whole comment. You live smaller. Ooh, that was bad. You live smaller than your truth. You live smaller than the truth of who you are. This is one that it's really, it touches me, because it's literally why I do this. It turns my stomach, literally, when I see people trying to manipulate others out of their true lived experience. What I mean by that is, when you know that somebody is hurting, when you know that somebody does not have they don't have all of the awareness or courage to fully stand up for themselves, and you continue to put them in positions where you know that you're not doing right by them, but because they're not doing anything, or because they're not saying anything, and you know they're not going to say anything, it bothers me. Like, to the core of who I am, it bothers me, because you are robbing them of their truth, and you don't have the right to do that. You are robbing them of what they could be. You are like keeping them in a box of confusion. You are keeping them in a place of doubting their reality. And when you're in that place, you cannot become the optimal version of you that the world can benefit from. I don't know what you're here to do. I don't know what God placed you here to do. I truly don't. But I do believe that everybody has a gift and talent that they are here to explore and to help other people with. I very much believe that. But I also know that so many people don't do that because of what's living in here. And when I see other people, lock in the challenges of other people, like when I see people exploit the lack of awareness and the lack of courage in other people, I don't like it. I don't like it. But the only thing I can do, which is why I do this, because that's my way of fighting it. That's my way of standing up here and saying, I really do think you're a superhero. I really do think that there's nothing in this world that you can't do. I really do think that there is something that you are holding within yourself that there's a lot of people in this world who need it. That's what all of this is about. I want to free you of your burdens. I can't free you of your burdens. Only you can do that. I want to pass you the flashlight to look into all the darkness in your life so you can free yourself, for you to be the person that you are supposed to be in this life, for you to be the person that everyone around you can benefit from, because you're more compassionate, you're wiser, you're braver, you are more willing to stand on the realities of who you are, the beauties of who you are. That's why I'm doing this. So this one, the you living smaller, I don't like to see people living small. And I don't like to see people not encouraging people to live bigger. I don't like that. I don't like it at all. So, yeah. If anything I said today resonated with you, I'm sorry. I know I got excited, but I am so serious. I'm so serious about both of those messages. That really bothers me, and I really do believe that you are a superhero. Very deadly serious about both of those messages. Deadly sounded harsh. Very I feel very fired up and alive to deliver that message for you. There you go. I like that one better. I feel very fired up and alive to deliver to you the message that you're a superhero and you're here for a reason. So if that resonates with you and what we talked about today resonated with you, but you're still kind of like, I need some help along this path. I hear what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying, but I'm not really sure where to start. Please join my school community. It is Living Whole. It exists on the school platform. I would love to have more conversations with you about these things. I have reflection questions, about the whole method. Again, the whole method, a framework for you to live your best life. It is a roadmap to discovering the patterns within you that are currently not serving you, and how to make them serve you. How to unpack some of it so you are able to make better decisions around the person that you want to be, and better decisions that point you in a direction, taking action steps toward being the person that you want to be. The whole method touches on all of those things. Again, 5 pillars: witness, heal, own, love, execute. Those are the 5 pillars to the whole method. We did a deep dive on the Living Whole community on the school platform. If you just enjoy, answering these questions, if they resonate with you, if you see other things on this YouTube channel that you're like, that might be me too, or that's my friend or somebody, share it with them. Like I said, the reason I do this is to empower people. The reason I do this is to let people know that what they're dealing with, they're not alone. It's not uncommon to have these experiences. They're not alone, and they don't have to experience this forever. There are things that you survive, but it comes a certain point in time. In order to move on from that, you have to ask yourself, if the things that I used to survive in the past, are they helping me now? You have to ask yourself that at some point. So if you saw this and you saw somebody else in it, share it with them. If you want to have more conversations like this, subscribe to the channel. If you don't do that, you'll probably never see me again. Hopefully you will, but you may not. So you might as well just like and subscribe. And if you just like conversations around mental health, you can join me in them on social media. I am Talk Therapy on the Go I'm on TikTok at Talk Therapy on the Go, and I'm on Instagram at Talk Therapy on the Go. Thank you for your patience with me. I appreciate it, and hanging in there. And on whatever platform, I hope to see you. Thank you.